Have you ever stopped to think that the way we understand an entire region might be based on a borrowed map? Well, today we're diving into a book that argues exactly that. It suggests the intellectual history of South Asia needs a complete redraw, not by looking outwards for answers, but by looking within.
So this is the book we're talking about, Modern South Asian Thinkers. But honestly, it's way more than just an anthology. It's a really bold argument against what the editors call imported ideas, a powerful attempt to chart a totally new intellectual course for the region, from the ground up.
And that gets you thinking, right? It forces us to ask a really fundamental question. How much of our understanding of any place or any culture is filtered through a lens that wasn't even created there? How much of what we think we know is actually built on these borrowed ideas?
So here's the core problem the editors are tackling. They argue that for way too long, the academic map of South Asia has been drawn using borrowed tools. And what that means is our understanding gets shaped by Western frameworks, this imported knowledge, which can create a picture that's not just incomplete, but, fundamentally skewed.
The thing is, when we rely only on these outside academic traditions, like grand universal theories or purely numbers-based surveys, we end up missing the crucial, messy human details that actually define a region. It's kind of like the difference between looking at a map of a forest and actually walking among the trees.
Okay, so what's the fix? Well, this book's solution is pretty radical. It says we need to go beyond that rigid academic frame. Its mission is to build a more authentic, a richer understanding by looking at totally different kinds of thinkers and different sources of knowledge.
Now, this isn't about just tossing out traditional academic work, not at all. It's about creating a dialogue. It's about placing those grand theories right next to fiery commentaries. It's about putting hard data in conversation with literary accounts, and even with poetics. This approach, you see, creates a much deeper, more textured picture of the region's intellectual life.
And get this, they do this by profiling 61 thinkers. 61. Why such a specific, odd number? The editors are very clear about it. They say there's no numerology or anything like that going on. It's a deliberate choice to show that, and I'm quoting them here, quantity becomes a mere prop in the larger performance of thoughts. It's all about the quality and diversity of the ideas, not just hitting some neat round number. So to really see what this looks like in practice, let's zoom in on a couple of the thinkers featured in the book. I think these examples just brilliantly show the kind of homegrown knowledge this book is all about.
First up, let's meet Karma Ura from Bhutan. This guy isn't just an academic. People have called him an architect of his country's entire philosophy of progress. He offers a really unique perspective that challenges, the global norms of what it means for a country to be successful. His most famous idea is gross national happiness. So instead of measuring success just by GDP, which is a purely economic number, GNH focuses on collective well-being, on preserving culture, and on protecting the environment. It's a perfect example of an indigenous idea that offers a powerful alternative to the usual Western models. All right, now let's jump to another fantastic example, the thinker Ananda Coomaraswamy. He was a pioneering art historian who really spent his entire career pushing back against how colonial views misinterpreted South Asian art and culture. Coomaraswamy's whole point was that Western scholars were just getting it totally wrong. They'd look at these incredible Indian sculptures and label them monstrous or demonic, simply because they didn't get the cultural and spiritual context. He argued they were judging a profound tradition by a completely alien set of standards.
In this right here is the perfect illustration of the book's entire argument. It doesn't matter if it's Bhutan's economy or India's art. You simply cannot truly understand a culture's creations without understanding the culture itself. These thinkers prove that knowledge has to be understood from the inside out.
So when you bring all these different thinkers and ideas together, it's not just some cool academic project. The book has a much, much bigger ambition: to actually reshape how South Asia sees itself and how the rest of the world sees South Asia.
The book uses this really powerful metaphor. It wants us to move beyond what it calls the cartographic idea of South Asia, just a flat map of countries with fixed borders. Instead, it asks us to see the region as an organic ensemble, a living, breathing whole that's connected by a deep communion of culture and shared history.
And that, right there, is the ultimate goal: to use these diverse indigenous thinkers to help build a new collective consciousness, one that sees the region not as a collection of separate political territories, but as a deeply interconnected cultural and historical world.
And all of this leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. This book is a powerful reminder that the mental maps we all use to make sense of the world were drawn by someone. So who are the thinkers, the artists, or the storytellers who could help you redraw your own map and see your world in a completely new way?